Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and hey, you can do this. Because this is Z-Lowpass. I have got my third Z-plane style filter sorted out, and this one wound up, I think, being pretty convincing. Now, if you notice that I look a little bit different, it's because my ATEM switcher just died on me for the final time and would not come alive. So this is sort of a raw camera being patched in there. I've done what I could to make it be okay, but this is all happening sort of right in the middle of everything. I don't know what that's going to mean for my Monday video of streaming programming, but you'll be able to hear it the same as ever. So maybe that'll just be, I don't know, a studio cam or something. Anywho, here is, and since this is done in OBS, I can still do this. Here is Z-Lowpass. Now, the deal with this is it is based on the Z-plane filter out of the EMU E6400 Ultra. And I've got that lined up for you, and you can hear it. Instead of this, it's this. So that's the real thing. This is a hardware EMU filter with the maximum poles setting. And it's got that quality of when it goes bright, it kind of flares up a little bit, which is part of the output circuitry. And if we play it, you can hear it go. You can also kind of see the way the thing looks, at least if I move it around a bit. You can see where the loudness goes. You can see the lows, they have a certain amount of boostiness to it, and then when we go to the full bright, the brightest stuff also peaks out kind of hot. And if we switch over to the plugin, you see we've got a similar behavior, up to and including the little details of how the loudness lets you have some low frequency thunder in here. Here, I'll pull that back just a little bit. And then it gets brighter at the super high frequency stuff. So this is Z-Lowpass. And it's letting bass through at all frequencies, but it goes down to the sort of thundery lows. And this is what you do with it. Now, that's not the only Z-plane filter I sampled. So we go back to the real thing again. There's the sound of not as many poles on the filter. And the way you get that is by setting the pulse control on Z-Lowpass to 0.5, which is as close as you can get to start bringing in dry wet, because 0 poles is just dry. It has no effect at all. So if we switch over to this, we can hear a kind of similar quality. maybe not exactly the same, but it's got a lot of the same kind of stuff going on. And then we can move it. It does get kind of extra bright and aggressive with this 0.5 setting. And then we've also got, although I mean so does the real thing. And then we've also got the 4-pole setting. And we'll try to emulate that with an intermediate pole setting. And there you have it. So this is Z-Lowpass, and another thing that you can do with it, since the output is so padded at these really high distortion levels, the reason that is the case is because unity gain for these is about 0.1. In fact, it is literally 0.1. And if you're rolling stuff off really hard, you can wind up with very little output. Like here we've got it with the poles turned up all the way. And it's padding a little bit, so I'll put that raw signal maybe a little hotter. And as we start rolling it off, with very little additional gain, because the input control on this is designed so that you can replicate what you might do with the real sampler by sampling stuff and then gaining it up repeatedly inside the sampler to make it crazy distorted, because that's something people do. So if you don't do that, we're not doing that right now. We've got it set with the input of 0.1. So what you do is you bring the output up a little bit until it's a comparable volume of the dry signal with it switched out. And then we can turn it down and have audible sound still happening even though we're rolling stuff off a lot without distorting. Balancing all this out is definitely kind of tricky. I won't promise that I've got it all perfect, but it should be fairly usable. And then if you wanted to use it as just a sort of subsonic boost, without turning up the input any, you can turn up the output and get a lot of kick out of it. Or go to dry signal set it up in some kind of way where you're getting the right kind of a low-end punch you want out of the filter, and balance that with your dry. Or you can pad the output down and start turning it up so that you're getting a crazy sound. And then use dry wet on that. For a kind of subtle addition to the tone, gives you a certain amount of grind and dirtiness that you can manipulate. And that's leaving some of that low frequency thunder in there. Like this. Even though we're still hearing dry. Like by contrast, here's your dry signal. And here is Z-Lowpass adding a little extra rumble. Or a lot of extra rumble. We'll go mostly dry, turn the output up all the way, and now we can just bring in thunder. Anyway, I got a bunch of fixing to do for my video setup, as you might be able to see, although for all I know it looks fine to you. I know I've had to do a lot of changes because people tended to gripe if things are like not contrasty enough or too film look or whatever. Here, I mean, if I'm fooling around with this kind of thing, we can always get really creative. And I can make all of my videos like this going forward. But bottom line is, we've got the new plugin, Z-Lowpass, and that seems to be working pretty much fine. It sounds a lot like the real sampler. I've got another plugin, whether or not I can show my screen as I code it, which I don't think I'll be able to do, because what I've got for video capture only works for things that are exactly HD, which I can make the cameras do, but I don't think I can make the computer do. But we'll see. I'll experiment and I'll find out. Maybe it'll be all screen and no camera that time. Bottom line is, I hope you like Z-Lowpass. You know, I may have to run out and get another ATEM switcher since this one has burned up. The reason I can do things like that is because I am Patreon supported, although making the plugins is really more important than doing crazy things with videos, so I wouldn't worry about it. Like, if you weren't already on the Patreon, you don't need to be on the Patreon for that. But that is what supports all this work that I do, and pays for things like these samplers and stuff. And I hope that you enjoy Z-Lowpass. I feel like this one is going to work out pretty well for people. And I'll keep them coming. Whether or not I can do live streams streaming the code that I write while I'm writing it, I could probably just put the camera in my room and you would at least be able to hear what I'm doing. And that might not be interesting, but fewer people show up for the live streams anyway, so it's all good. On that note, oh, and if you want people to watch these videos, you should have done it when I still had the ATEM Mini working, because I was able to do better video then. But I hope you like Z-Lowpass, and tomorrow, Monday, I'll be working on Z-Notch, which is the final sampler-inspired filter this time around. And it will be modeling what in the actual sampler is called phaser. Because what they called phaser is a thing that is basically a notch filter. But it makes it sound a lot like a phase shifter. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to do one final Z-plane filter, or Z-plane inspired. I'm not actually using the code. I'm not actually using any of their stuff. I'm just trying to make it sound the same, which I think I've done fairly well. And we'll be going after their phaser setting, which is going to be called Z-Notch. on that note, I will talk to you folks later. Bye-bye.